So welcome back, 13th class of NCERT Indian Polity for Foundation Batch Adharshila, conducted by Center for Ambition. And here we will be today starting with the Judiciary chapter, which is the 6th chapter. So previously I have told you that we have three pillars of the government, we have three organs of the government: legislature, executive and judiciary. And in the previous videos we have covered the legislature and executive part. In this very video we will be covering the judiciary. We will be discussing about all the aspects of the Indian judiciary system. We will be seeing it and what is the relevance of it. Okay. I want to tell you a brief history of judiciary as well. As you can see, the judiciary in India now is not the way it was before the independence, or just after the independence, or post independence, you can say. Evolved. It has evolved through the judgments. Why? Because when the constitution was made, the constitution maker were the leaders of the country. Okay, they were the members of the were also the leaders of the country. Okay, that Dr. Rajendra Prasad was the member of the Constituent Assembly. That we have Patel, we have Jawaharlal Nehru in the Constituent. So we have seen that constitution maker were the leaders of the country itself. So we have given more powers to the leader at the very beginning, because we had no idea how to run a country. So we have given the executives of the country a greater front to rule. Why? Because had about government, how to run the system. Okay, so the judiciary was on the back foot, was playing on the back foot, and the judgments of the judiciary has also evolved. So judiciary was not the way it is today, it has evolved itself. Okay, Supreme Court of India, one of the most powerful court in anywhere in the world. Okay, most powerful courts in the world. Also, the country, okay, okay, this is a single integrated system. It means that the Supreme Court, the division of the Supreme Court, High Court. Okay, so now high, it is the highest judicial court in India. Also, it is the confuse it executive, the Supreme Court. confused about the final authority that a person has, that a body has. So the final appeal is president, although has pardoning power in judgments here. So we have the court of appeal and not the president. Other parts of the country, other parts of the world, but uh, state then courts. The Supreme Court. Okay. Now, if I have told you that we have a single integrated, which I Supreme Court directly supervises the subordinate courts or the district courts, then the statement courts and subordinate courts in the country, and supervise the 73. It was established by the Regulating Act of 17 states, which is Bihar, Bengal and Orissa, and it had full for the functioning and Orissa, okay, by the Regulating Act 1773. Okay, later what happened that King George the Third uh, established two other Supreme Courts in first in Madras and Bombay. Okay, so two other Supreme Courts were also started in Madras in 1800 and in Bombay in 1823. Okay, so if a question comes, for example, that we always had one Supreme Court in India, the statement is truly false. Why? Because I have told you that Supreme Court, the way it is now, in the current scenario, in the present scenario, it was not like this earlier. Okay, so we had three Supreme Courts, one in Calcutta and other in Madras and Bombay. Okay, then uh, later in 1861 we had Indian High Court Act. Okay, so in 1861 Indian High Court Act came up and it abolished all the Supreme Courts that we had in Calcutta, in Madras, in Bombay. So it abolished all the courts, all the Supreme Courts that we had at the Calcutta and the Madras and Bombay, all the three Supreme Courts, and it also abolished the Sadr Adalats that were running in the presidency. Okay. So what happened? Let me give you a clear picture. So High Court Act, Indian High Court Act 1861 came up and it abolished three courts which were three Supreme Courts which were at Calcutta, okay, then Madras and Bombay. Okay. Now, if the statement comes that the High Court has more power over the Supreme Court before independence or around 1860s, and if you don't know this fact, then you can make it wrong. Okay, but knowing this, that the Indian High Court Act 1861 abolished the Supreme Court of Calcutta, Madras and Bombay, it means that the High Court had greater powers, had more powers than the Supreme Court. Okay, then what happened after the Government of India Act 1935? Federal courts were established and it gave a more power to the federal courts. Okay, then we had federal courts more powerful than the high courts. Earlier, before this, we had High Court as the highest form of power, okay, in India. I hope you are clear with the history of Indian judiciary system. Okay. Now, if we come to judiciary, if we start the chapter judiciary, so I have told you all the important things that we have single integrated system. Okay, it is the final court of appeal. Okay, it has the highest power. It is at the apex of the courts. We have a hierarchy of the system. Okay, we have a hierarchy of the system. We have a pyramidal form of judiciary. Okay, pyramidal form of judiciary matlab, pyramidal form of judiciary, it means that we follow a pyramid kind of structure, which means that at the base level we have a subordinate courts or the district courts. Above it we have high courts, and at the top, most powerful, we have the Supreme Court. Okay, so this is the full structure of the Indian judiciary system that it is discussed in the NCERT. Moving on, as we have seen that judiciary is the most powerful, is very powerful. The Supreme Court is very powerful in the country. So, to make it the same way, to make the judiciary more powerful, we need the judges of the Supreme Court, of High Court and District Courts to be independent and fearless. Okay, so we have to make sure the independence of the judiciary. Okay, we have to make that the judiciary is not dependent on the system, on legislative, on executive in some or the other way, because if they are dependent on the other organs of the government, what will happen? It will initiate some fear or some favor in the judiciary system, and it can be not that powerful. It cannot function its power fearlessly. Okay, so the judges of the system, the judges of the Supreme Court, High Court and District Court needs to be independent. Why? Because to function fearlessly. Okay, or if suppose the judiciary, if suppose the judges of the Supreme Court and High Court are favored by the legislature, or you can say executive, in the some or the other way, then what can happen? The judiciary might have to give judgments in favor of the government. Okay, so to make sure that the judges do not give judgments in the favor of the ruling government, or in the fear of the ruling government, we need that the judges should be independent in nature. Okay, that's what we talk here when we come on to the NCERT. So, independence of judiciary is very important. Independence of judiciary is very important to maintain the power of the judiciary. Okay, now how we can maintain, how we can check that our Indian judiciary system, that our judges of Supreme Court, High Court and the district courts are independent. The other organs of the government like executive and legislature must not restrain the functioning of judiciary in such a way that it is unable to give justice. So, we have to make sure that the pillars of the government that we have, as I told you, that the government has three organs, which is the legislature, the executive and the judiciary. So, now to make sure the independence of the judiciary, the other two organs, which is the legislature and the executive, do not have to interfere in the workings of the judiciary. It also must not do something which restrain the judiciary to give its to enable the justice. Okay, it should not hinder the process of justice giving by the judiciary. So, the other organs of the government, which is the executive and the legislature, must not restrain the functioning of the judiciary, so that judiciary can also give the justice to the people. Secondly, the other organ of the government should not interfere with the decision of the judiciary. So, the other organs of the government, as I told you, they should not interfere in the functioning of the judiciary. They has to be separated. The three organs of the government have to work separately, and they should not interfere in the work of each other, so that the has a respective duty cannot function it. Okay, so legislature and executive must not interfere in the work of judiciary. Okay, this also ensures the independence of judiciary. Thirdly, the judges must be able to perform their functions without fear and favor. So also the judges of the Supreme Court, the judges of the High Court, the judges of the district have to be fearless. Fearless, how will make them fearless? By not making them dependent on judiciary, or sorry, on executive and on legislature. Okay, the judiciary has not to be, should not be dependent on the legislature and executive, which will make them without fear and without favor. So both the aspects of fear and favor should not come between the judiciary. Okay, and that is how it will make it make it independent. That will make it independent. Okay, now when I talk about judiciary, I have said that judiciary should be kept away. Judiciary should be kept away by the legislature and the executive, because it should not work with fear and favor. It want to make judiciary so powerful that it works randomly, or it works under the arbitrary functions. Okay. Now, when I talked about judiciary, I said judiciary should not function under the fear or under any pressure given by the other, and also for any favor of the government. Okay, it should not work for any favor regarding to the ruling government. That will only ensure. Okay. When I say that the judiciary has to be independent and judiciary has to work without the fear and without the thinking of the favorism, then make the judiciary arbitrary in nature. I do not want to make judiciary to be super powerful that nobody checks it. Is also checked. It has to be accountable. It has to be accountable by the constitution. It means that the constitution puts limit on the judiciary as well. It has to be under the limits of the constitution. Okay, so the judiciary cannot work arbitrarily, also work with the limitations given by the constitution. Okay. So there are some cases, there are some instances where we see that how our judiciary independence, how the judiciary independence is protected. Okay. The first case is the Indian ensured the. So we have above everything, and it has given by number of measures. Okay, we have a lot of criterias under which we can see that we have independence of judiciary as well. Firstly, it talks about that the process of appointment of judges is where legislature is not involved. Okay, now when we see that how judiciary is protected in India, how we ensure that the independent. Okay, how judiciary is independent. The first case we see from the NCERT is the appointment of judges. Okay, so appointment of judges, there is no work of legislature. It does not mean that it was same uh, like it is now. It was earlier interference of legislature as well, but now when we see appointment of judges, we see that there is no role of legislature. I will tell you elaborately later in this chapter. Okay, party politics. Party politics not play a role in the process of appointments. In order to be appointed as a judge, a person must have experience of lawyer. Or, okay. Now, when we come to the appointment of judges, we do not favored party. We who is favored by a ruling party. Why? Because if a judge is party, then give he must likely its judgment in the support of the ruling party. Okay, if the ruling party appoints the judge will have some favorism regarding the ruling party. Okay, so we want a judge who has uh, good knowledge of law, it is well versed in law, or he is a lawyer. Okay, so we see the qualifications like that. The judges are not directly or indirectly appointed by the ruling party or the party in majority. Okay, secondly, see the independence of judiciary. First, we have seen are not appointed by the government. There is no role of legislature in case of the appointment of the judges. The second case where we see the independence of judiciary, how the judiciary is independent, ensures that they function without the fear or favor. Should have a security age or some certain is very much fear instance where we see that how the constitution have protected the judges is not independent. Government on cannot threaten. Okay, and it dependent on executive, a court of judgments or the parliament, uh, not specifically the judgments, but the judges. If the discussion of the judges is going on in the parliament, a court of judiciary in order to the judges of there was that was going on from 1950 to 1971 73 of the Supreme appointed as the most senior judge or 10 HR Khanna is the most senior judge. 1973 we have seen that A.N. Ray, that the government Indira Gandhi government influenced the judge. So what happened that Supreme Court when consult the by is not binding on the president. It means that when I told you the workings of executive, I have told you that president works on the aid and advice of council of minister headed. Okay, so the president works on the aid and advice of council of ministers, which is headed by the prime. So it means that the government, it means that the council of minister has a strong hold in the judiciary also, which is appointing the CJI of the country. Okay, so this was the case that here the consultation of the judges of Supreme Court was not binding of the president, and president can choose whosoever he wants as the CJI. It means not the president, council of ministers. Okay, council of minister is a hidden word. Why? Because the president works on the aid and advice of the council of ministers. Later what we have seen, that second judge case came up in 1993. Okay, here what was the case? Here we have seen that the government, from this example we have seen that the government is more powerful than the Supreme Court or than the judges of the Supreme Court. Okay, in the second example, here the word consultation was crossed and it was used concurrence. Concurrence matlab it is binding on the president to choose whoever the judges of the Supreme Court and the High Court appoints or give the name as a recommendation to the president. Okay, so here the consultation of the judges had more power. Okay, so here in the second judge case, we have seen that the Supreme Court judges have more power than the government. Okay, then we had third judge's case. In 1998. Okay, here what happened? Here it was said that CGI with 4 judges will be appointing. So here what happened? The birth of, you can say, collegium was started. Okay, the collegium system, which is also a body for appointing judges, came up. It meant that CJI with 2 senior judges will decide that who will be appointed as the next CJI. Okay, and this will be binding on the government. Okay, so this will be binding. Here the concurrence, the word concurrence got more power than the consultation. Okay, coming on to the third judge case. The third judge case, 1998. Here the collegium system changed to CJI plus 4 senior judges, and here the ruling was passed out as that CJI, whatever the CJI will make the appointment, the CJI whoever he will recommend as the next CJI will not be his sole opinion. Okay, will not be his sole opinion. It means that CJI has to consult the other 3 judges, the other 4 judges, the other 4 judges in case of the appointment of the CJI. What does it mean? It means, it means that the system of plurality came up. It means that it has to be consensus, it has to be with the support, with the majority of the CGI and the 4 senior judges, which means a 5-member body, which is the collegium, has to give recommendation to the president for the appointment of the judges. Okay, for the appointment of the judges, the CJI plus 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court has to give, not necessarily Supreme Court, has to give the name of the person to the president. Okay, so here it has to be in the majority, it has to be in the majority, it has to be in the majority. It means that it has to be by the plurality system that the CJI or the senior most judge will be appointed. We'll see here. Okay, I'll okay. Yeah. Can we make it a bigger one? Okay. So here we have seen that the matter came up again between 1982 and 1998, which means the first judge case. Okay. Okay, so the matter came up of the Supreme Court again between the 1982 and the 1998, which means that I have discussed the first judge case, which was in 1982, and the second judge case, which was in 1993, and then we had the third judge case, which was in 1998. So the matters came up before the Supreme Court, before the courts, from 1982 to 1998, and initially the court felt that the role of Chief Justice was purely consultative. As I have told you, in the first judge case, the of CJI was purely consultative. It means that it was not binding on the president to appoint the judge whoever the CJI says. Okay, whoever the judge of Supreme Court says, it was not binding on the president. It was purely consultative. Okay, when we come up to the second judge case, here we see that the word consultative gains a more power and it becomes concurrence. Okay, here it is saying it took the view that the opinion of the Chief Justice must be followed by the President. So here the word consultative became concurrence. It means it is binding. It is binding on the President to keep the view of the Chief Justice, and it will be followed. It must be followed by the President. So first, in the first judge case, we have seen that the government has more power than the Supreme Court, but in the second judge case, we have seen that the Supreme Court has more power than the government. The judiciary has more power than the government. Okay. Come up with a normal procedure. It is suggested that the Chief Justice should recommend names of person to be appointed in consultation with the 4 senior most judges of the court. Thus, the Supreme Court has established the principle of collegiality in making the recommendation for appointments at the moment before the matters of appointment of the decision of the group of the senior most judges of the Supreme Court carries greater weight. It means that I have told you, I'll just briefly tell you once again, I'll just brief it out. The first judge case in 1982, it said that the CJI will be consulting the president in case of appointment of the judges. In 3, that the CJI role opinion, it has to be the sole opinion which means that the consultation word got more power, concurrence. But third judge case, which is in 1998, and it finally brought the principle of collegiality, or you can say the principle of plurality. Here, with four senior most judges will be appointing the judges, and it gives the to the president. Okay, here the vote has, which means even if the two judges said that the name should not be given to the president, it won't be given. Okay, so here in the third, we have seen the work of plurality. Okay, now we come on to the removed, as that in our Indian judiciary system, the independence of judiciary is very important. We have to make sure that the judiciary should be of the other two organs. So we have made the process of removal of the judges a very difficult criteria. Why? Because if the judiciary would not have a security of tenure, if they could be removed at any time of their office, then there will be a feeling of fear. A judge will make its judgment. Okay, so there should be security of tenure. Maintain this security of tenure, the removal of the judges should be a difficult process, and judges only be removed. Judges of Supreme Court and High Court can be removed on two cases. The first, misbehavior. Okay, first is proven behavior, and second, so these are the two cases. The judge of the Supreme Court or High Court, first is proven, and capacity. The removal of judge is a difficult process to the independent judiciary. And how it will be made sure? It will be made sure when we have that a certain age will be retired. Security of tenure is a very important feature. In up till case of impeachment of judges, we have only seen one case that was brought up, but it was not successful. It was of Justice V. Ramaswamy. He was charged misuse of the office, but due to it had the majority of the support, the procedure did not, the allegation did not support the majority of the people, so hence it was cancelled out. It did not had the motion recommending the removal of the judges did not pass the criteria of two-thirds of the majority, and hence it was not removed. So it was an unsuccessful attempt to remove our judge. Okay, here we see that judge of Supreme Court and High Court can on the ground of proven misbehavior or incapacity. These are the requirements on which only two grounds on which a judge of the Supreme Court or High Court could be removed. Okay, a motion has to be charged containing that the judge is guilty of proven misbehavior or incapacity. It should be approved by the special majority by the both the houses. It should be passed by the special majority. In case of Lok Sabha, the notice In case of Lok Sabha, okay. Lok Sabha, it should be initiated. The removal of the judge notice has to be initiated in the Lok Sabha by 100 people. 100 people have to sign the notice. In case of initiated in Rajya Sabha, then 50 members have to get their sign in the notice for a removal of judges. Okay. Okay. We have three judiciary, why the judiciary is important, why the independence is important. We have seen the hierarchy, the Indian judiciary system, how the constitution makes sure that the judiciary of India is protected, judiciary is protected. Okay. Appointment of judges, we have seen that it was a tradition that the senior most judge of the Supreme Court will become the senior appointed. And when there was a controversy, that what was the controversy, that the president appoints the CJI president, it is, but it is the power. So we have seen that somehow it is the government which is influencing the judiciary, and it is hindering the basic idea of independence or the basic idea of separation of powers. That there is interference of the other organizations, uh, two, in which we have that the president has the CJI of India has a consultative power over the government. It means that give its consultation, the president can only hear the consultation of the Supreme Court judge or the CJI, but it is legislative. Then the Supreme Court, but in the second judge case, that the word consultative more power and it is changed to concurrence. His sole opinion would be of that the Supreme case system, the principle that they'll be appointment, they'll be voting, and there'll be a majority of the appointment. Then only not be the other four senior judges. Okay. Then we the judges could be removed, but it is a very difficult process. Guarantee for the judges, it means that the judges have the independence of working. It makes sure that so we have make sure that every judge and every judge functions difficult process of initiating removal of judge. The local on the notice in case of in the Rajya Sabha, it has to be stating of the Supreme Court or High Court. The first ground we have seen is proven misbehavior. Ground we have seen, okay. Also, none of the judges ever in the history of India, but only one judge, Swami, full attempt. Hierarchy here. I have told you for the matter of civil and criminal.